Hi everyone, welcome back. My name is Morgan. This is my channel Pisces Paperbacks, and today we're celebrating Pride. I read gay books all year, but I thought it would be fun to show you guys all of the queer LGBTQ books that are on my TBR, both physical and ebooks. So let's just get right on into it. I think I want to organize this with like more contemporary realistic fiction and then kind of transition into the more speculative at the end. So let's start off with my contemporary romances. And first I have Wild Things by Laura Kay. This is about a woman named Elle who's been stuck in a rut and has been in love with her best friend Ray for years. And I believe they, as well as their two guy friends, go off and kind of start their own little mini commune in the English countryside. I got this in a blind date with a book. It was really fun because I had never heard of this book before, which is kind of the fun part of blind date with a book, but because I know so many books, like because of the internet, they're like never a surprise. This was a surprise. I'm really excited to get to this. The next two are recommendations that I got from my friend Julia. So first we have Just As You Are by Camille Kellogg. I know that this is a contemporary lesbian retelling of Pride and Prejudice. I love 2005 Pride and Prejudice. I haven't read the book in a really long time, and I didn't love it when I read it when I was like 14, but I know that I love the tropes, and you might notice they are masked lesbians. I think that there is a severe lack of butches in all literature, but especially romances. Where are my butch lesbians for me? Where's my butches? So I'm really excited to get to this. It's one of the reasons I bought it. Next is another Julia recommendation. This is Mistakes Were Made by Meryl Wilsner. This is about a girl who is graduating college. She goes off campus, has a really hot hookup with a woman at a bar, and then the next day realizes that it is the mom of one of her really good college friends. So this is kind of like a more age gap romance. I'm very interested. I don't really know what like the plot is other than like they can't be together because that's her daughter's friend, and she's like kind of conflicted about that, but I'm still into it. I have one historical romance on my Kindle, and that is Band Sinister by KJ Charles. I believe this is about a brother and sister who are kind of through circumstances traveling through the country, and their travel gets disrupted, so they end up having to go to this country estate of someone with not the best reputation in good society, but a reputation for having kind of like wild parties and wild friends. And then the brother of these two siblings kind of falls in love with the host, who is, they're both gay. So that's a queer romance. I've never read any KJ Charles, but they have so many books that look so good. So I'm like, I have to start somewhere, and I've heard very good things about this one. I think I bought it because Mina from Mina Reads read it and really liked it. So that's, you know, high praise. Sticking with the historical, I have Dead Dead Girls by Nakesa Afia. This is a mystery set during the Harlem Renaissance about a girl who works at a cafe, and other black girls keep turning up dead, and she kind of gets into it with the police, and they tell her either you help solve the case or you're going to jail. I don't know why, but very interesting. I know that she is gay. She has a girlfriend, and it says so right on the back, so queer, slay. Now to the more literary books. I have The Vanishing Half by Bennet. This is about two women who are identical twins, or at least very, very like similarly looking sisters. One of them lives their life as a black woman, and one of them has decided to spend their life passing as white, and kind of the trajectory their two lives take. I know that one of them is in a relationship with a woman, so that's really all I know. I think this is more of family saga. Lots of people love it. I've owned it since 2020, I think, and I just have never gotten around to it, but I really would like to read this soon. This is The Price of Salt by Patricia Highsmith, also known as Carol. You might have seen the movie. I love that movie. This is the copy I got from Amazon. It's maybe the worst cover I've literally ever seen. I didn't think it would look like this. But this is about two women in the 1950s kind of having a relationship and the consequences of that. I love this movie. The picture is literally pixelated. I don't know if you can tell, but I will read this eventually. I wrote a little bit of an essay about it in college. It's very dense. I know that it's very dense, and the font is pretty small in this book, so I will get to it eventually, but that time is not soon. Next, I have 2 books by James Baldwin, Go Tell It on the Mountain and Another Country. I will be honest, I do not know what these books are about. I know that Go Tell It on the Mountain is more about this boy's coming of age and his race and kind of his sexuality, so I included it because James Baldwin is a queer author. I think Another Country is more having to do with sexuality, but either way I included these because the author is queer rather than knowing what the plot of these books are. I will read them eventually. I've read 2 books by James Baldwin. I've read Giovanni's Room, absolutely loved, phenomenal, and then The Fire Next Time, also absolutely loved, phenomenal. So I'm sure that I will love these. I love his writing. Really quickly, I have 2 nonfiction books. First, Bad Feminist by Roxanne Gay. This is a collection of essays that I've read like a little bit of, and I bought this before I went to college, so I've had this book since 2015. But I included this because Roxanne Gay is queer and married to a woman. I don't know that these essays really have anything to do with her sexuality, but I wanted to include it because that's a queer author, slay. And then also I have Stone Butch Blues by Leslie Feinberg. This is a book that directly is addressing the author's queer identity as a butch lesbian, but also kind of what that means for gender, not just sexuality. So I really am excited. I didn't realize it would be so big. But the font's really big as well. I bought this at a local anarchist bookstore in Philadelphia. Really, really excited. I'm glad that I have this. Now we're transitioning out of the realistic fiction into something a little bit spooky. I have some horror, starting with The Honeys by Ryan LaSala. I picked this up because I read Primal Animals last year and hated it, and someone in the comments of the TikTok that I posted about it was like, if you want summer camp horror, you should pick up The Honeys. So here I am. This is about a gender fluid main character named Mars whose twin sister tragically died, and so he's decided to attend this summer conservancy academy in her place and try to like connect with her and her friends that way, but it's kind of not quite right. I am very excited about this. I want to read it this summer. Summer is the time to read summer camp horror, and I also love the cover. Like, that is so gorgeous. Next, I have Sawkill Girls by Claire Legrand. I picked this up again years ago, meaning to read this, and I just think I'm gonna like it a lot. It is about 3 girls on an island where girls have been disappearing for decades and kind of investigating that. I've heard such good things about this. I've never read a book by Claire Legrand, and I'm convinced that I'm gonna like literally all of them, so I'm excited to read this again eventually. Last in the kind of horror vibe is the book I'm reading right now, I'm in the middle of, and that is She is a Haunting by Trang, Tran. I'm loving it so far. This is about a girl named Jade who is visiting her father in Vietnam for 5 weeks in exchange for him paying for her college tuition. And while she's living there, they're living in this French colonial estate that he is fixing up, and she is being haunted by the ghosts of the family that used to live there. Phenomenal. If you like bug horror, this is it. But if you're weird with bugs, do not read this. Jade is queer and struggling with hiding that identity from her parents, and there is a kind of like friendship with another girl that is developing. So yeah, very excited about this one. YA horror can sometimes be good, even though Primal Animals let me down. Out of the spooky and into the more fantastical, I have Pride and Prejudice and Pittsburg by Rachel Lippencott. I picked this up because the author was having an event at a bookstore that's kind of local to us, and my friend Julia, who I've mentioned before, has read one of her books before, so this is actually a signed copy, slay. And this is about a girl who moves to Pittsburgh, gets sent back to 1812. I'm not really sure about the details. I will read this eventually, maybe. I haven't really been loving YA romances, but I love gay people and I love romance in general, so hopefully I'll read this eventually. I might just read it through audiobook. Up next, I have Ravensong by TJ Klune. This is the second book in the Wolfsong series, where I think it's called the Green Creek series. I've read the first one, absolutely adored it, and I've read other books by TJ Klune. Basically, every book he writes is a queer romance, so this is also a queer romance, specifically with werewolves. While we're talking about werewolves, let me mention Pack of Lies by Charlie Adhara. This is the first book in kind of a spin-off series from the Big Bad Wolf series I read last year. I absolutely loved that series. It's 5 books about an FBI agent and kind of like a werewolf FBI agent and their romance as they're kind of investigating stuff in the werewolf community. It's kind of like Werewolves meets Criminal Minds. Love it. This is about a kind of third-party character who's very briefly mentioned in the last book, or in the second to last book in the series, and their romance with another character that we haven't met yet. A queer romance, 2 men, one is a werewolf. But I bought this because I thought the second book in this duology was coming out, like, I bought it in like January 30th, and I was like, oh my god, second book comes out February 5th. That's so exciting. Look closer, February 5th, 2025. 2025. So this is the first book in a duology, and I'm not going to read it yet because the second book doesn't come out for another year. Another book I have on my Kindle is Tell Me How It Ends by Quinton Lee. I picked this up because I think it like discounted to like 50 cents one day, so I bought it really quick with a gift card. This is, I think, a YA fantasy with a lesbian autistic main character and an asexual non-binary love interest. It's about tarot and witches. I really do not know what this is about in terms of plot. I can look. Let me look. The Goodreads description calls this a coming-of-age cozy fantasy with a queer cast, witches, and tarot, perfect for fans of Legends and Lattes. Check. And Our Flag Means Death. Double check. It seems like it's about a witch named Iris who can tell the future with tarot, and kind of something happens and her family gives her an ultimatum where she has to prove her worth or leave the family business. And so that is what that's about. Next, I have the real challenge on this list, and that is Pryor of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. I bought this in 2020 when I was still living in Texas, so it's been a while. This is an epic fantasy about 2 cultures colliding. I know that there is a sapphic romance in here. I really don't know what the general plot about this is. It's so big, I think that it would just kind of be daunting to hear about, but I will read this eventually, someday. My brother read this like a year and a half ago and loved it. He's already read the sequel, so I have somebody vouching for it, but I'll get to it eventually. It's so scary. It's huge. Next, I have Elysium Girls by Kate Pentecost. I bought this because I absolutely love the cover. It is so fucking stunning. This is a Dust Bowl kind of inspired fantasy about a town named Elysium where they are praying for the end of the dust and the war, and there are 2 gods, life and death, who are kind of in battle, and then an outsider girl comes to town, and the main character kind of has to interact with her and go beyond her more comfortable limits, and I'm so excited. I'm gonna read this year. I'm so excited about this, even though I bought it like 2 years ago. Next, I have 2 books by the same author, by Alexis Hall, who wrote A Lady for a Duke, which is phenomenal and you should read it. First, I have Mortal Follies. This is a historical fantasy romance, I believe, about a girl named Melis who is trying to enter high society for the first time, but she has an irritating curse that keeps bothering her, and she recruits the help of, I'm gonna try and finish this quickly, but there's actually a street festival happening 2 blocks down from my house today, and so if you hear any noise outside, that's what that is. Melis recruits the help of Lady Georgiana Landrake, who's been nicknamed the Duke of Annandale. So it's a queer romance. It has a beautiful cover. I'm obsessed with it. And then this one I don't think is a romance. It might have romantic elements, but it's more of a mystery, and it's called The Affair of the Mysterious Letter. This one is more speculative, though. It's about a captain named John Wyndham who comes back to his city after 5 years of fighting in another universe, looking for somewhere to live. Oh my god, this is a Sherlock AU. John Wyndham forces him to take lodgings in 221B Martyr's Walk with his new housemate, Miss Scheherazade Haz. This is a Sherlock AU. Retelling, inspired by, I don't know, I guess AU isn't really the word unless it's a fan fiction. I think I had this same reaction when I picked this book up for the first time in a Barnes & Noble, and that's why I bought it. I completely forgot that this was Sherlock. Oh, I'm in. I'm so in. I'm sold. We're so back. Everything is so back. And I don't know how this is gay except for the fact that Alexis Hall is a trans author and writes all queer books, and I just believe that it is. Very quick, because I can hear it getting even louder outside. I had to pause for a couple minutes because there was like a drum line, but I have 3 sci-fi novels and then we're done with this list. First, Yoon-Ha Lee's The Hexarchate Stories. I bought this because I read a short story by Yoon-Ha Lee, who's a non-binary author, and I absolutely love the short story, but then I read a novel of theirs and I was like, this was fine. So I was like, maybe I'll like more of their short stories. So I bought this. Turns out, to read this, you need to read their trilogy. the Foxhole Gambit, or the 9 Fox Gambit, something Fox Gambit. And that I've heard is very, like, hard sci-fi. So I have this now. I'll read it eventually. And then I also have In the Lives of Puppets by TJ Klune. This is another one in his kind of like Under the Whispering Door, The House on the Cerulean Sea, kind of like softer speculative vibes. But this one is sci-fi because it is about like puppet robots, I believe. They're like, it's kind of a Pinocchio story where there's robots who want to be real humans kind of vibe. I don't know what this is about. I bought this like right when it came out. I have the other 2 books that are kind of in this same style, and I loved them both, but I've heard not as great things about this, so I'm a little bit more hesitant, but I do want to read it because I do like TJ Klune's writing, so I'll get there eventually. And then lastly, I have The Light Brigade by Cameron Hurley. I picked this up because Mara at Books Like Whoa read it and really, really liked it. That's pretty much all I need to like want to read a book, is to have it vouched for by Mara. She's like my favorite. And this is, I really don't know what this is about. This is about a soldier named Dietz who is part of the Light Brigade, which is kind of the soldiers fighting a war against Mars. They transport there and they're broken down into light particles to travel, and they kind of come back different. But Dietz is experiencing something that kind of is telling us the story of a different kind of war than what they're saying is happening. I really don't know what happens in this, but I love the cover. I don't know. It's really shiny, so I don't know if you can tell what is even happening, but it's really beautiful, and I will read it eventually. The pages are huge. This is like a really big paperback. It's the size of, it's larger than like a normal size hardcover, so I will like this, and it has fairly large font. So I think that is, I know this is also queer. That's also a selling point of this book, that it is queer. So that's it. Let me count all of these. According to my math, that is 25 books. I hope to get through some of them this year. Let me know if you've read any of them. Which one should I start with? Because I don't even know where to begin. And let me know if you found out about any books that you hadn't heard of before that you maybe want to check out. I hope you enjoyed this video. A nice little quick one today. And I will see you guys next time. Bye!